Alrighty, welcome to In Progress, y'all. It's our weekend roundtable discussion of the political stories, issues, and ideas that are top of mind for progressive folks across the Lone Star State this week. I'm Chris Mosier, podcasting director here at Progress Texas. We're a statewide nonprofit rapid response media organization promoting progressive messages and actions. This week, I'm joined by Executive Director Kathleen Thompson. Hi, KT.
Hey, folks. Happy weekend.
Digital Associate Haley Smith has just finished her finals. Congratulations, Haley.
Thank you so much. Happy to be here. Hey, y'all.
And Advocacy and Development Coordinator Tatum Owens is here too. Hi, Tatum.
Hi, Chris. Hi, team.
So we are recording this on Friday, the 12th of December, 12/12 at 11:21 a.m. So political news moves fast in Texas, as we know. Things might be different by the time you hear this. So if that's the case, you will have to adjust. Welcome, especially if you're hearing us on Sunday morning on KPFT radio in Great Big Old Houston, Texas. So we've had a great week. We've had a huge week. We had a great gathering in Austin that we'll talk a little bit later. More of that good fun is coming up. But clearly the big story, as it was last week, actually, as we were rolling into last weekend, we were all wondering what was Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett of Dallas going to announce on Monday, just prior to the filing deadline. We expected her to announce a run for the U.S. Senate, which indeed she absolutely did. Colin Allred, one of the existing candidates in that race, has dropped out. He's running for something else. We'll talk about that a little later. But all this week has been the news that Jasmine Crockett is now part of the Senate race, alongside James Talarico, Austin State Representative, who's been in there as well. The comparisons, the contrasts between these two really top-tier progressive message smiths, shall we say, for Texas. They're two of the best of people who lean in the progressive way. And so we've had a handful of days here to sort of digest and think about, this new landscape in this particular race when it comes to the Democratic primary for Senate. Haley, let's start with you for grins. Give us what you're thinking about the Crockett-Talarico deal, and where's your head at this point a few days in?
Honestly, right now, it just kind of feels like when your parents fight and you're just like in the middle of it and you're like, no, everybody stop fighting. More than anything, I just am sad that come March, we're going to have only one of these progressive fighters, and having to choose is going to be a really difficult decision. I love both Jasmine and James. They're obviously great at what they do. And yeah, having to pick one, I think, is really going to suck. But a part of me is looking forward to this primary. I do want to see where they're going to meet voters and where it's going to be impactful and how it's going to shape the 2026 election. But yeah, I think it's a little too soon to have any other feelings other than grief for me. And yeah, I guess I'll just have to get used to it. But what are you, Chris? What are you feeling?
So I'm in a similar sort of scenario there. It's a bummer to me that one of these two people is going to end up not in elected office. But I have also started to realize that we live in a digital space where you don't have to have office. You don't have to be in office to be, part of the message and part of the movement. Yeah. And I think whichever
Look at Beto.
Whichever of these two people, yeah, exactly. Beto O'Rourke is a terrific example.
Look at all of us. We are not elected.
Exactly.
None of us, nor should we be, I would say. In some cases, that's individual call, I suppose. Anyway, I think I've started to get over that part. I've given way a little bit to excitement. To kind of see how this goes, because Haley, as you said, these are both terrific people and represent what we want to see move forward in Texas and in politics in general, in very different ways, but both very much in agreement. I mean, there's nothing about either of these two people that I firmly disagree with at all. So it's an interesting situation. Tatum, where's your head on this?
Haley talked about the fact that they're both really effective at meeting voters where they are. I think that's really great. And particularly the way that both of them are extremely good message smiths, as Chris might say, or messengers, another word.
I kind of made that word up as I was as I was tripping over my own tongue.
Language is ever evolving. But messengers of progressive values online, I will share that even though this was that was Monday, that was filing deadline, and that was like eons ago. But what is still on my timeline today is Jasmine Crockett and James Tallarico, Jasarico, as Gina Hinojosa would say. She was also on my timeline.
Very nice.
Tallarico is on Jubilee. Which is exactly what you need to be doing in this moment, right? Like, people who are politically disengaged still get that content because it is divisive and people love views where people are arguing, and Jubilee does a great job at that. So I really liked how he went on there. And if you're unaware of Jubilee and the type of videos they do, this is basically a roundtable setup where he's able to put forward 4 arguments talking about how healthcare, food, just basic rights, basic needs for people should be defended right now. Pretty easy argument to make, and tries to inform each of those people and stand by those arguments is what he did. And then I have Jasmine Crockett on my page as well, because they are just so good at disseminating these tidbits of content across For You pages. And yes, I'm politically engaged, but I guarantee you they're hitting my friends because they've been sending it to me as well. My apolitical friends who are not involved in the political machine, and God bless them for it, because they're probably feeling a lot better than I am this week. It will be a lot. I think I will be sad in March, just like Haley and like a lot of the rest of us, but that's a ways away. And maybe people get more engaged for it, because this is just the first week of content that we're seeing from that messaging perspective. And so I think it could be really good, and we will have a stronger candidate for it, which is what a lot of other people have agreed upon.
Yeah, let me round it up by saying I disagree with all of you, and I think it's a great thing. Seriously,
I think it's
Jasmine and
James,
yeah,
Jasmine and James are in their 30s. This is not the last that we're going to hear from whomever does not win the primary, right? They're not.
Right.
They're not voted off the island to never return, right? There's going to be another election as long as people vote the right way.
Yeah.
There will continue to be elections. So my take is that the primary is between the TDP's 2 best communicators, and Reps Crockett and Tallarico share our focus of spreading progressive values and affordability policies, like Tatum's saying, a government that works for the people as far as possible. And that's going to help turn out young voters, working voters, and the millions of people who sat out in 2024. I'm not talking about go register new voters. I'm talking about people who are already registered to vote, who saw their choices in 2024 and were either so not engaged, they didn't know who was on the ballot. As we know, Google searches afterwards said, "Did Joe Biden drop out?"
Right.
Yes. Where have you been? But they're going to help reach the people who sat out. And a general election win, so meaning next November, requires so many more Texans turning out in our vote suppressed state. So my take is that Democrats need all the attention that they can get, and James and Jasmine know how to get it.
Right on. I'll wrap up this part of it by saying that in talking with Rep. Tallarico and hearing things that he said on various places, including Joe Rogan's podcast, he may or may not decide to stay a political guy forever. He's studying in the seminary. I think he's got his own path forward from here, wherever it is. But I do think that he will remain a potent thought leader in whatever professional aspect he decides to pursue in the future, should he not get the nomination. Jasmine Crockett is the same way. She is not the type of person that's going to go quiet, just having lost a particular primary. So I think we do have a future in both of these people. It's also imperative, I think, for individual voters who may have chosen one camp over the other at this point to remember that we're on the same team.
Yeah.
To be prepared to move past the primary. As Kathleen likes to say, somebody's going to lose this primary. And so if you're in the camp of the person who loses, we can't be doing the thing where we stay home out of dejection or whatever we are feeling. This is an all hands on deck situation beyond the primary, all the way through November and even beyond that. So we're all going to have to, let's see this primary thing through and then be ready to jump on board with whatever the result of the primary happens to be moving towards next fall. So we're going to talk a little bit about, in particular, the Railroad Commission race. So let's put that to the side for just a second. After the filing deadline, we kind of got finally the big picture of what's going to happen, moving forward to the primary, and in some cases even beyond that, in the case of uncontested candidates. Did anything pop out at any of you guys as particularly interesting races or things that you're looking forward to following? Kathleen, you go first here.
Yeah, I'm really excited to see State Senator Sarah Eckhart jump into the comptroller race.
Mm-hmm.
She's a very effective communicator. She's one of the most progressive members of the legislature, not just the Senate, but the Texas legislature. And I think that the comptroller race that is the chief financial officer for Texas, who has a lot of power and autonomy in their office, is a big deal. And we heard from her at our Austin party that the week before she wasn't sure, but she made the decision and filed on deadline day.
Yep.
So I'm excited to see that, and that is a contested race. She does have Democratic challengers, of course, but I'm excited to have a big, high-profile name in a statewide race that's not just at the top of the ticket.
Yeah.
Let me mention real quick that I've come across Michael Lang, who's another candidate for the comptroller's office. He's a terrific guy. He has run before, I believe, for Land Commission, I think, or one of those level of statewide races before. Michael Lang's a really good guy, and I think would also be a viable candidate that's worth looking at. Tatum, anything pop out from the list at you?
Something. I mean, I'm just going to add on to Kathleen's point of what Senator Eckhart said at our event earlier this week, which is she had pointed out that we live in the wealthiest nation in the world, and at that, the second wealthiest state in the wealthiest nation in the world of all history, right? Like that is something significant, and yet you have so many Texans that are just like grasping at straws for how to get their grocery store prices down, how to make sure that they can budget together healthcare costs. Yeah, it's top of mind. It's the end of the year. It's Christmas time. It's holiday season for people who want to give gifts. And that's like, maybe the last thing on the top of the list. And so to have someone who can actually take care of the Texas budget and make sure that public goods are being given to the people who need them most, that would be great. I think that'd be really cool. Joaquin Castro, I kind of thought that something might happen there. I think everybody kind of thought it did, and he refiled for election. So being from San Antonio, I'm glad that he will be remaining a leader of progressive values, and that's great. Other people, Mark Vesey, that was an interesting thing because it kind of hinged on what Jasmine Crockett was going to do. Again, the chaos of Monday and everything leading up to it.
Mark Vesey, he ended up filing for Tarrant County Judge, which, of course, Tarrant County Commissioner Alyssa Simmons has also filed for that race. So that sets up a little battle.
Yeah.
Yes, it does.
There in Tarrant County between a couple of people that we also like very, very much. And so we'll see how that turns out. And once again, Team Mark and Team Alyssa going to have to come together at some point, regardless. And so let's just and that's a big one too, because on the other side of that equation is Tim O'Hare, who is a complete MAGA. He's a MAGA.
Yeah.
Haley, how about you? Anything from the list that you noticed?
I was excited to see that Dr. Kristen Hook is running again. She's running against Chip Roy, and she's a really great candidate. She's a lovely woman. She's a former scientist and public school teacher. And she's running against Chip Roy. And with these new maps, I'll be drawn out of Greg Casar's representation.
You will?
Yeah, really rough. Not looking forward to it. And having a candidate like Kristen Hook on the ballot to vote for that reflects my values and who I am as a person is very rewarding.
Right on.
And I'm really excited to see her there. And also something else was Clayton Tucker is running unopposed.
Yep,
He's
for Ag Commissioner.
Really cool guy.
Yep.
Friend of PT and dedicated to busting monopolies and fighting for the working folk. It's now Friday, and I feel like I can kind of catch my breath.
It's starting to take shape, and something we should note is for the first time in 50 years, there are Democrats in every single one of the races, and that hasn't happened in a long, long time. And that to me is indicative of a heightened degree of momentum and interest. That's really cool to see. Speaking of Clayton Tucker, who, by the way, is one of the co-founders of the Texas Progressive Caucus, I noticed as I was digging through the list at 5:30 in the morning with one eyeball open, noticed that he was running unopposed, and so I wanted to confirm that. So I called Clayton very early in the morning, but I know he's a farmer, so I knew he would be up.
He's out.
And he confirmed for me that he is running unopposed. He also confirmed for me that John Rosenthal, who our KPFT listeners will know who that is, he is running for Railroad Commission. Turns out he is surprisingly running unopposed because one of the candidates who has been raising money from Democratic circles with the expectation that there would be a Democratic run from her, has instead filed as a Republican. And we're talking about this situation with Catherine Colbert. And let's backtrack just a bit. Once upon a time, boys and girls, we were going through the 2024 election cycle.
Yep.
And we talked to both Catherine and also a drilling engineer and all-around cool guy, Bill Birch, who were running against each other in that Democratic primary for the Railroad Commission. We ended up endorsing Bill Birch. We just simply found him to be the better of the two candidates based on the criteria that we weighed. She got the nomination. She clearly did not win that race. But quite an amazing little moment, and a little bit deep in the weeds for some people, that this person would have raised funds and created her initial momentum with a Democratic expectation and then end up on the ballot as a Republican. Kathleen, walk us through, just on a basic level, the ethics of this. Like, why is this? Some people might think, oh, well, she just decided to try to run as a Republican. What's the big deal? What is the big deal, Kathleen?
It's totally unethical. This is not your grandpa's Republican Party, and the Democratic Party is not your grandma's Democratic Party. The times are so different. The Republican Party now is the party of ICE kidnappings and deportation of American citizens, of book bans, of school shootings, unanswered, of ending health care for millions of Americans, and a priority being, designs of a ballroom that cost $300 million. I think aren't there about 300 million Americans would love to have $1 million check. Anybody need $1 million?
Sure.
That'd be great. So it's totally unethical because people have jobs and lives, and they're caregiving for their kids or their parents or their spouse, and not everybody has the time to go look at every policy, priority, and word on people's websites. Of course, we want voters to be informed, but when you're saying that you're a Democrat and that you align with the Texas Democratic Party platform, that's very different than saying you align with the Republican Party platform, which put into their platform being opposed to critical thinking.
Right.
Here in Texas. So it's totally unethical to raise money from Democrats to have people who supported your campaign with door knocking. If she was ever a part of a slate, which of course she was. People are saying, let's vote for this Democrat in 2024. So it's unethical, it's dishonest, and I hope that people get their money back.
Yeah.
You can't get your time back, but I hope that Act Blue turns off her page if they haven't already. I haven't looked, and that she's banned, lifetime ban, if she decides to wake up one day and feel like maybe it was a bad choice and come back. You just don't do that to people.
Right.
You don't do that to people who are working so hard at minimum wage jobs, who are working to provide for their families.
Right. Michelle Davis, who does the Lone Star Left Substack, who we've become quite big fans of, noted that this was not just something she rolled out of bed and decided on filing day that she was going to do. This clearly was her plan the entire time. So as Kathleen talked about, on the Democratic side, it's the picture of kind of the body of donors looks a lot different than it does on the Republican side. We don't have a whole lot of billionaires that are writing us, $1 million, $2 million, $5 million checks over here on the Democratic side. On the Republican side, they've got that. Over here, it's smaller people. And as Kathleen mentioned, it's working people. It's people who are giving what they can, which is just a little bit of money comparatively to the other side, based on the idea that they want change and they want someone who's going to represent them and what they would like to see come out of our leadership. And I've donated in that way. I've never given anybody a whole massive amount of money, but I've given plenty of candidates smaller amounts of money, as many progressive people have. It never occurred to me once that I might want a refund on that. So I'm kind of glad to hear that there is a function. What can we say about that? If someone's listening to this and they gave Catherine Colbert some money, and they're disappointed now that they've, in an end around sort of way, have now donated to a Republican candidate, what's the option? What can you do?
I'd be contacting their campaign today and asking for my money back. And if I had time, I'd be going to her campaign events and publicly, loudly asking for my money back. That to me, and I'm not an attorney, it screams fraud. Winter is coming, right? We are days away from the official start of winter. And for as long as I live in Texas, I'm never going to forget Winter Storm Uri, which was
Right.
a natural and a man-made disaster. And when I'm talking about the man-made, I'm talking about the Texas Railroad Commission and Governor Greg Abbott, who let people freeze to death in their homes or die from carbon monoxide poisoning trying to get warm in their garages and in their cars. So to have somebody who calls themselves an oil and gas leader who's switching to the Republican Party tells me who that she wants to be working for. And it's not my family that was trying to like feed her family of 5 by cooking in a tiny fireplace. And I had friends saying, at least you have a fireplace. Mm-hmm. I mean, it was terrible. We stayed at our house because the news kept saying rolling blackouts. Well, rolling means that it's going to come back on. And right. It didn't. And we finally had to leave when little Becca's hands and feet turned bright red. Mm-hmm. And I'm still like, I can feel the visceral anger that I felt back then and what has been done to make sure that this doesn't happen again next year.
Yeah.
Right. We're also, lately in the news is as winter is coming, as Kathleen says, we're also seeing massive, massive drains on the existing and known to be frail Texas power grid, thanks to crypto mining and data centers and things like that have been allowed to be placed on our power grid. Those things don't have anything to do with keeping anybody warm. Those things have to do with enriching tech bros and Donald Trump. And so let's keep in mind as we roll into the coldest part of the winter in the upcoming weeks that there is an additional drain on keeping our power on that wasn't even there before. Let's also note that, even with our tuned in audience, there are probably still a few people out there who don't quite understand what the Railroad Commission does. They have nothing to do with railroads. They are the state regulatory body over the energy sector, basically over oil, over renewables, over all that stuff, over all the money, all the exchanges, all the land, all the stuff that's involved with producing energy in Texas. Those are the people who do it. And as Kathleen said, this person doing this turncoat routine is highly cynical and happens to be right in a lane where it really, really should mean a lot to people who are paying attention to all the different parameters of this.
Yeah. If you think it doesn't matter, if you think it doesn't impact you, good luck, because produced water, LNG, like pipes burst because of a lack of infrastructure and because a lack of regulation has come for years and years of inaction from the Texas Railroad Commission. And so having someone who is just flimsy in their value systems put into there is such a disgrace because Texans are actively suffering because of this lack of action. And it's like Kathleen said, extremely frustrating. And nothing's going to change unless somebody gets in there and changes it.
We are definitely stretching our time today. So let's move along to the next deal here, which is this really bizarre a press conference that happened earlier this week between Governor Greg Abbott and Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick, who, they've been fighting lately. So here they are, agreeing on something. And what they're agreeing on is the idea that through the use of, I guess, state authority, which would be the authority of the Texas Education Agency, the TEA, and a whole bunch of money out of Dan Patrick's campaign coffers, apparently, to the tune of $1 million. These two guys plan to establish Turning Point USA clubs in every high school in the entire state of Texas. I'm kind of like, all right, whatever. If nobody's going to join your stupid club, that's fine.
Not whatever.
What turned me off was, and I don't agree with the club, don't get me wrong. But what turned me off was the comment from Governor Abbott that was directed at school administrators, that his warning, do not resist. If we hear of anything of the people who are in charge of running these high schools putting any kind of obstacle in the way of our Turning Point USA Charlie Kirk clubs that we're going to establish in your school, that we're going to turn you into the TEA, and there will be discipline and there will be hellfire, coming down on you for daring to resist, this thing that they want to do with Turning Point USA. Haley, I think, is the most fresh out of high school. I know she is out of the rest of us.
That's right.
What would you be doing, Haley, if suddenly you found out there was a Turning Point USA club firing up in your school? Would you rush out to join?
Well, I can't say I would be, signing up. You know what I mean? man, this is just such a gross, grimy thing. And I'm and reading about it, they're not calling it Turning Point USA, they're calling it Club America.
Club America, right.
Yeah, yeah. And it's this like network of indoctrination clubs in high schools across America being, like avowed by our highest state officials. It's scary. It's a very scary time.
Yeah.
And I went to a conservative, fairly small high school. And fun fact, for our personal finance course, which is required for all Texas high school students, you guys know who Dave Ramsey is?
Yeah.
Yep.
As is familiar with it. We had an entire course with a textbook with his face on it, a
Yeah.
Dave Ramsey education in personal finance. And he had people like Ben Shapiro and like Jordan Peterson on for like required viewings in class. Like, it's crazy. Yeah, these like covert conservative indoctrination programs that they're like very purposely disguising as like educational material, and it's very clearly not.
Kathleen, you've got high schoolers, and you've got a kid about to, before too long, joining the high school ranks. What did you think of this announcement?
I think it's laughable. I'm old enough to remember when President Barack Obama had a welcome back to school message for high school students, and Fox News was telling parents to sign your kids out of hearing the president indoctrinate children with a back to school, attend class, do your best message. I mean, I wouldn't leave my kids alone with Dan Patrick for 5 minutes. And if he's giving $1 million to this effort, we know he's corrupt. We remember everything he did during Ken Paxton's impeachment trial. That's the kind of grassroots money that's, of course, big air quotes here, friends, money that's supporting these clubs. I would be staying far away.
I don't have to imagine what it's like to have had a Turning Point chapter on my campus, albeit it wasn't high school. I went to UT, which of course is in the news because of its also bending the knee, and Haley's words from earlier, to Trump's compact. And so I see these things as being connected. The word brainwashed gets used a lot when people are talking about the liberal agenda and how colleges are ruining the children of America's minds. This to me is just the most obvious example of brainwashing and an attempt at censorship. Chris, you pointed to the teachers. Something that Turning Point is really known for is a professor watch. So
Right.
We've already seen the impacts of what it looks like when one student enters a classroom and tries to throw a professor out of their job, and everybody else suffers for it. Between Professor Watch, Prove Me Wrong, Turning Point USA is just an organization that's meant to be divisive and put forward conservative values in their own words, right? Like that is what they are there for. People trying to stir up other people's lives and cause conflict. Like Prove Me Wrong is the most prime example where people just sit there on a campus and try to start problems with other people. Why is that going to be in a high school classroom? Like, we just don't need that. The kids are already suffering enough. They don't need extra problems thrown in. And that's kind of where I am.
Let's remember that the Prove Me Wrong thing. Of course, Charlie Kirk was in the middle of doing one of those when he was assassinated in Utah.
The worst example of what comes from it.
If you go back and watch some of the stuff that Charlie Kirk was doing, he was not fostering the exchange of ideas. He was not listening to anybody.
Yeah.
Charlie Kirk was a master of rhetorical misdirection and maneuvering. He was very, very good at debate. It's one thing to be good at debate. It's another thing to be an effective communicator and a truly, good leader, which in my humble opinion, Charlie Kirk was not one. And that's what this entire Turning Point thing is based around, was his style, his belief system. So if you want your, I say your kid, but I think in particular, if you want your son to turn into a little walking Charlie Kirk, then by all means, you've got your opportunity here, I suppose. But I don't know why anybody would want that necessarily. So we have really gone a little bit long. We're going to go ahead and cut for this point. Thank you so much. Wait. Edit. Okay, here's a breakout point. We got to break out to, and sorry, we're just getting used to doing this.
You're good.
So as we begin to wind down, I would like to send my thanks out to the great big old crowd of people who joined us at Antone's in Austin this last Monday night. KT said it's the biggest crowd we've had yet at Antone's, and we've done a bunch of events there over the last several years.
That's right.
We had a terrific time. I was so busy. There were so many people that I didn't get a chance to say hello to. And so if you're one of those people, I'm sorry I didn't get to talk to you. But how'd you guys do? We had a good time, wouldn't you say?
Loved it. Yeah.
It was great. It's nice in these very difficult times to get together with like-minded Texans who know that's the state we could live in if we turn more people out to vote. So I loved it.
I say this a lot, I feel, whenever I go to in-person events, but it's so much of my job in doing this is online, it's through a screen, and it's so nice to actually be in community with people and like
That's right.
feel the impact and the energy of the room. And the conversation was so great, and everybody that we had there, it was just awesome. I loved it. Yeah.
Definitely.
Antone's is great too.
Ditto.
So cool.
Definitely go check out the podcast at progresstexas.org or on Spotify, wherever you listen. We had a slate of great progressive leaders talking about this year and the fight ahead. So I definitely recommend checking that out.
Absolutely. Many of you may not be super familiar with Austin City Council member Zoe Kadri. We consider him to be a rising star in this whole deal. He's great and a very, very cool guy. Roland Gutierrez, Senator Roland Gutierrez of San Antonio, I would say is almost a Jasmine Crockett style message smith, as it were. Just in terms of telling it like it is, getting it out there with passion and with occasional fiery language, which he's kind of known for and does very well. My wife gets mad at me if I cuss too much, and I always try to tell her I'm cussing for effect. I'm doing it, it's not something I'm just throwing out because I can't think of anything else to say. I'm doing it to emphasize a point, and I think Senator Gutierrez does a great job with that. Senator Eckhart, as we've already mentioned, saying some great things and really smart things about the comptroller's job. So we're going to see how all that goes. Terrific time. Once again, we're going to be doing it again in Dallas on Monday the 15th. You may be very likely hearing this before then. We have a terrific panel for that second podcast taping, which is going to be gubernatorial candidate and Austin State Rep Gina Hinojosa, Austin State Rep and candidate for Lieutenant Governor Vicki Goodwin. I haven't seen the two of them talk in one place at one time before, so that's going to be really interesting and fun. Texas House Democratic Caucus Chair and Houston State Rep Gene Wu, of whom we are massive fans, and also Attorney General candidate Joe Jaworski, who's a great friend of Progress Texas and has been a supporter in so many ways. And so we appreciate all of them and look forward to seeing all of them. We're pushing our time for sure. We got to wrap up. But Haley, who is kind of our resident Houstonian, sort of, kind of, she's from near Houston and knows that part of Texas, I think, best out of the four of us, has some stuff on Mayor John Whitmire to share. Go ahead, Haley.
Yeah. First of all, Southern Brazoria County represent. Mayor John Whitmire has been mayor of Houston for about a year. And in that time, he has bent the knee to the Trump administration and really played in the face of the Democratic Party and raised money for Dan Crenshaw, circling back to our conversation earlier about how parties are not just labels, they're not just colors, they mean things, they have weight, they have a lot of trust. And there is a resolution that is proposed by the Harris County Democratic Party that would bar John Whitmire from receiving endorsements or support from the Democratic Party. And the precinct chairs vote on Sunday. If you are a precinct chair in the big and diverse city of Houston, I strongly encourage you to be aware of this resolution. It's going to be very instrumental in shaping the party ahead of 2026, and you should vote your values. And that's all I have to say as the resident Southern Brazoria County Democrat.
Right on. Thank you so much for that, Haley. Thanks, everybody. Have a terrific weekend. That is In Progress once again. In Progress Texas is a statewide nonprofit rapid response media organization promoting progressive messages and actions. While campaigns come and go, we're the permanent home for progressive media and action in the Lone Star State. In Progress also airs on KPFT Radio in Houston, 90.1 FM HD2 every Sunday morning at 11. More information on the radio station at kpft.org, and more info on our work is available at progresstexas.org. Once again, we're super excited to see you at our second holiday party coming up in Dallas on Monday. Full details on that at progresstexas.org. Quickly, we want to thank our sponsors who have made the party possible, both the parties actually. Shaping the Future supporter Charles Zeller, Fired Up supporter John Adair, Be the Change supporters Alex Andrade, Scott Elpingstone, Howard Cleon, the Honorable Dick Levine, the Honorable James Talarico, Persistence supporters the Honorable Yasmin Simon, the People's Last Stand in Dallas, See Y'all There, Jason Smith and Sarah Pareda, Unified and Jerry Yoss. Good Trouble supporters Allison Gritcher Allen, Bright Blue Inc., Alex Clark and Kate Rumsey, hosts of the Mission Texas podcast, John Cotter, Valerie DeBille, Amy Forehand, the Honorable Vicki Goodwin, Josh Harris, Freda Held, Joe Jaworski, Eric Johnson and Dr. Mark Parker, the Honorable Ron Nierenberg and the Honorable Bill Peterson III, and Mark Yagin. And Raise More Health supporters, Val, Louis A. Bedford IV, the Honorable John Busey III, Stuart Campbell, Hannah Cutshaw, Charles Hodebeck, Bill Holston, the Honorable Donna Howard, Will Judy, Dave Jones, Angela and Gary Kutak, Jenny Laughlin, Carol Orr, Jennifer Owen, Palmer for Justice Campaign, Mark Ferris, Gary Potts, Printed Union, the Honorable Zoe Kadri, Save Texas, Beth Stromberg, the Honorable Adam Swartz, and the Texas Progressive Caucus. Thanks for listening, everybody. We'll see you soon.